Greetings, all you junk babies out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. That was a compliment.
That's a compliment? How is that a compliment?
You know, sometimes you find a baby in the junk. And
then you call people that. It's like, I don't...
Yeah, you're like, hey, junk baby.
Bringing it back.
Okay. This is Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek E06 rewatch. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Sup?
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 3, Episode 6, The Abandoned. Alternate title, very creative. Jim Hadar.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense.
I was like, is that too obvious?
Honestly, my first instinct on this episode was like, this would have been the perfect episode to be called The Jem Hadar, except then it would have been a spoiler at the beginning because you would have known what it was going to be.
True. Should just be called, like, The Baby.
The Baby. I mean, The Abandoned...
I mean, what? That's a problem with the title, because I don't feel like he really was
abandoned.
Yeah.
He's not, unless you count, like, the lady who sold the ship parts to Quark as abandoning him.
Right. I feel like the other people on that spaceship probably died or something.
Right, exactly.
Or maybe they abandoned ships, so he got abandoned on the ship.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if somebody or some other, like, concept in the episode could have been the abandoned. Like, was Odo the abandoned? In a way, I guess he was, because, like, his people sent him out into the galaxy on his own. But
yeah,
was Marta the abandoned?
I guess she was abandoned when her parents died.
When she moved out of her where she was living at 13 or something to be on her own. So that's
yeah.
I don't know if it's abandoning if you leave them. So
well, the abandoner.
That's a pithy title.
Yep. I would say this. I do not give this title a very high grade. A little too vague. I kept thinking of, like, The Forsaken.
Yeah.
It was like, it's kind of a...
Honestly, The Forsaken might have been better here. I don't know.
Maybe. They kind of mean the same thing almost, so... Anyway, our discussion will contain full spoilers for the series up through this episode. However, we will try to keep spoilers for later in the series to an appropriate minimum. We won't reveal anything too big, like when Bashir and O'Brien accidentally get into a hit-and-run accident.
Don't tell anybody. We gotta... Pinky swear. It's a life bond.
Oh my god, Chief, we just killed that man. No one has to know, Julian. Let's just go. What's weird is it had nothing to do with the rest of the plot of that episode, or it never came back in any way.
You mean how the B story of this episode is another one of those candidates for not related to the rest of the episode in any way?
They kind of try to tie it in. But let's see. This episode originally aired approximately October 31st, 1994.
Fletcher has gone down a rabbit hole because of the discrepancy that was found with the air date of the last episode. You guys need to know there was a library visit looking through microfilm. There was all sorts of stuff. Despite the fact that it's like one location on Wikipedia had this alternate date.
Well, it was the one I was using. So that's the problem. And I was using it for quite a few episodes.
Couldn't be a typo in that one resource as opposed to all the other ones. It must be some sort of conspiracy.
Well, it was just like it wasn't one typo. Every single date in that article is wrong. And so that's what really confused me, because I was looking at, like, previous episodes too, and they were all...
See, and actually, now that you say that does occur, because I remembered last time, you're like, well, but that's like 7 days after the previous one.
Right.
And then I was looking on Memory Alpha, and I'm like, but this one, the 24th of October, is also 7 days after what's listed for the previous one. I didn't say that, but I was like, I don't understand what's happening here.
So I was looking for all kinds of different sources because you don't know where these people get their stuff from. So
It's true. Yep.
I couldn't figure out where Wikipedia or Memory Alpha got their source from was the problem. It's just they both seem to pull from some random data set. And then I almost found a link to the original syndication information from Paramount or whatever. But then, I was doing that on my phone at work while I was working.
Yeah.
And
you mean instead of working? Got it.
I was running a checkers or something. I don't know. Which the people who are listening will not know what that means at all.
He was playing checkers while he was doing research while he was supposed to be working. So
yeah, exactly. I was playing the checkers game and I was waiting for my opponent to move, and then I started looking this up. And I forgot to write down where that website was, and when I got home, I could not find that website again. So that was a problem. So yeah, I went to the public library. I pulled the microfilm from the TV listings from our local TV listings, and I found out here the Star Trek Deep Space Nine seems to have aired on Saturdays at 6. Based on all my research online, episodes I think were released for air on Monday, which would make the 24th correct, the Memory Alpha date correct for last week. And then various TV stations would air them whenever they had a convenient time slot, basically.
Interesting. So I didn't realize that's exactly how syndication worked, because now I'm just like, it'd be harder to do that today, although I assume people still do it. But it's just like, if one local station airs it, it'll be on the internet in like 10 minutes, and then like nobody else at the other stations would watch it.
Right. Well, that because I found a Reddit thread where people were talking about, because someone was like, "Wait, what?" Like, it was like, "What was watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine like back in the '90s if it was straight to syndication?" And there's one guy that was like, "Well, some people got it on Monday, and then like spoilers would get put on Usenet almost immediately, so you had to like not watch those. If like me, you couldn't watch until Saturday." So I was like, "Man, this is a whole thing, I guess." But we'll say it aired the week of October 31st, 1994. It seems, based on our local listings, it looks like it aired November 5th on that next Saturday. So,
but, or was it? Because like it was like the previous week's episode that aired the week that like that one was supposed to come out on our local listing, wasn't it? Wasn't that the picture you showed me?
Yeah. Well, so those listings were from the Saturday, October 22nd.
Yeah.
According to Memory Alpha, last week's episode should have come out Monday, October 24th.
Oh, okay. So the one that was originally released on the Monday before the 22nd is the one that aired on that Saturday here where we live. And then okay, I'm following you now. Okay.
So it's basically delayed by our local showing was delayed by 5 days from when it was first released, basically.
Old news at that point, jeez.
Yep. It was a very different time before YouTube and Twitter and stuff. But apparently there was still like Usenet and bulletin boards and stuff. Anyway, so many previous episodes of Undeclared Bajor have the incorrect original air date. Oh well.
Well, depending on where you are, it might have been correct.
No, because these dates are before.
Oh, before that one officially released?
Yeah, like the ones on that Wikipedia article were all like 1 or 2 days before.
Oh.
What seemed to be the correct ones. So
okay, well, that's just even... All right, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, short of actually calling, like, the TV station and seeing if, like, the archives guy knows anything else, that's the best we're going to do.
I doubt anyone's going to remember something from, like, 30 years ago at this point.
Well, I was hoping they might have, like, a tape, like the original tapes, and maybe the tapes would say, like, do not air before blank on them, or something like that. But, anyway. Somebody go down to the comments and put a timestamp to when we're done with this conversation. So that...
so you know when this podcast started airing in reality.
Say podcast starts at blank and then put the timestamp. Okay. Anyway, this episode was written by D. Thomas Mayo, I guess is how you say that guy's name, and Steve Warnick. And directed by Avery Brooks.
Yep.
So
it's like his second one or something, I think.
Sophomore effort.
Hold on, I had to look up these two writers.
Sure.
D. Thomas Mayo's article says his writing The Abandoned with Warnick is the only Star Trek script he wrote, and is his only contribution to the entertainment industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what was his day job?
It doesn't say. And for Steve Warnick, it says this is his only contribution to television. So I guess now I got to go to IMDb and see what else he did for the entertainment. And it doesn't list anything else.
He was a burlesque dancer or something also.
Yeah, I want to be like D. Thomas Mayo. Like your high school play was not a contribution to the entertainment industry. I'm sorry.
I had to focus really hard to not accidentally call him D. Thomas Meow. But,
it happens. You got it right, Meow.
Yeah. Okay, so business is booming at Quarks. An alien from the Oompa Loompa species, who I'm not totally sure isn't the exact same guy who tricked that Cardassian kid into coming to the station and biting Garrick.
It did really appear to be the same guy, yeah.
Is on a winning streak. He's about to walk away from the table with his fists full of latinum when a dabo girl with really, really big hair goads him into taking one more spin, which he naturally loses. I want to say there's two things I really liked about this episode, and they're in this scene. Anyway, two really big things. Meanwhile, Jake has been sitting at a table throwing back Long Island iced teas or something and blowing kisses at the dabo girl.
I had forgotten that he had a girlfriend who was a dabo girl, so it's just like, whoa, it's being real bold of you there, Jake.
Yeah. Is this the same dabo girl that it was his girlfriend? I was like, and also his outfit. He's got kind of a pimpin' outfit going on.
Well, apparently he's a hustler, so you know.
Yeah, he's that Jake. So yeah, he takes a break, or she takes a break, blows off the advances of the Oompa Loompa guy, and joins Jake at the table. Jake expresses admiration at the way she totally screwed that guy out of all his money. And then she says she can't wait to come over for dinner with Jake and his dad, which is shocking news to Jake. Meanwhile, that alien femme fatale lady who brought Lee Nalis's earring to the station comes over to Quark and starts playing with his ears. Then asks if she wants to buy some junk she found in the Gamma Quadrant. Quark is initially skeptical, but then she starts doing something with her hands off screen, and he gives in.
Yeah, according to the article, this is like you said, this is the second time she's appeared, but she doesn't have a name yet.
They called her the something captain, didn't they, in the episode?
Yeah, she's the Boslik captain. Also, I just looked up this guy. The guy in the episode is named Okalar, which he does mention.
Right.
And his species is listed as Zolan's species, because Zolan is the guy from that other episode.
Okay. So two different guys.
I guess so.
But I mean, I don't know how this makeup works. He could just be wearing the exact same prosthetics for all I know.
And apparently, there's an episode of Voyager where someone uses the same prosthetics, but they colored it gray.
Okay, that makes it a totally different species.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, Quark goes in to inspect his big pile of junk. For some reason, this whole situation reminded me of those shows where they go to like storage lockers and like buy people's junk.
You don't usually find a baby in those, but it wouldn't surprise me.
It's like, oh, there's a baby. It's right under that meth lab. But yeah, so he initially finds it unimpressive, and then I guess continues to find it unimpressive. But he does suddenly hear a baby crying from inside the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes and he opens the thing, and then he like stares off at Jesus or whatever, and just shakes his head. He's like, "No, I saw a baby."
It's like, this is going to be so bad for me.
Yeah.
And it is. He loses all of his his salvage that he bought and has to go through all of this hassle because there was a baby in there.
I mean, to be fair, that salvage was pretty worthless.
It did look kind of crappy.
It seems he got some kind of action out of it, which was, because he even said it's like worth it.
Although honestly, if it was the remains of a Jem'Hadar ship, which you have to assume, why else would there be a baby Jem'Hadar on it?
Sure.
Then I think Starfleet might have an interest in that.
Yeah. I mean, they really don't seem to have found very much other than those two things, but they bring the baby to the infirmary where Dr. Bashir notes that the baby has an incredibly high metabolism. Sisko seizes the pile of junk from Quark so that O'Brien can dig through it. Sisko finds the baby cute and reminisces with Jadzia about how much he misses Jake being a baby, when he was cute and not bringing dabo girls over for dinner. So I think, this is kind of where they tie it together, because Sisko's kind of being a dad, Odo's kind of being a dad.
Okay, I see what you're going for.
I don't know. They made the mildest effort to link it thematically. And then I guess also, Odo learns he can't have complete control over his child, and then Sisko learns, there's a lot he doesn't know about his child, so...
True.
Anyway, Sisko goes home to find Jake upset about the Marta dinner situation. Marta is the dabo girl, if we didn't say that already. What's the problem, says Sisko. No problem, says Jake. Good, says Sisko. Good, says Jake. Just one of those conversations.
Yep.
Later, Sisko comes by the infirmary to find that the little garbage baby has now grown to the size of a 9-year-old. Also, he can talk, and he asks for food.
I guess they hadn't been feeding him.
I don't know how he grew without any food, but...
Fair question.
I assume they were feeding him, but, just this moment he wants food. Because he has to do more growing.
You'd think that Bashir would have reported before he grew to 9-year-old status that he seems to be growing unusually quickly. It's not like he was baby and then transformed into 9-year-old.
Yeah. Maybe Bashir, took a break to go play some handball or whatever that thing is that...
I think handball.
Or it's racquetball.
It was racquetball, you're right.
Yeah.
There were rackets.
Bashir notes that he must have some language and cognitive reasoning skills programmed into his DNA, which Bashir takes as evidence of artificial genetic engineering. Next, Sisko goes to look at the junk pile where O'Brien, fresh from his time seeing an Englishman go up a hill and come down a mountain, if that is indeed the movie he was filming, directs his attention to the capsule the baby was found in. It seems to be a stasis chamber of some kind, indicating someone didn't want the baby maturing aboard the ship. O'Brien and Sisko discuss the Marta dinner, and Sisko reveals his disapproval of a 20-year-old dabo girl dating his 16-year-old son.
Yeah, I don't blame him for that.
Yeah, and she seems older than 20 to me, but whatever. O'Brien, however, seems secretly impressed.
Yeah, it's dabo girl at 16. Wow, go Jake.
I think every 16-year-old should date a dabo girl. That's an experience every young man should have. Meanwhile, Kira pays Odo a visit in his brand new living quarters and presents him a present of a plant. Not a very pretty plant, in my opinion, but...
I assume there's a reason she chose that one.
It's Odo won't want to take care of it. This is a pretty hardy plant.
Yeah, probably.
He begrudgingly invites her in for a tour, and we see his vaguely kinky-looking furniture. Odo reveals that he doesn't use the bucket anymore, he just goos up wherever he wants to in his room and practices shape-shifting and all kinds of stuff. This makes Kira and me uncomfortable, but Odo seems cool.
It's his room.
That's
true.
He
can put fluids wherever he wants.
Well, it's just she's like, oh, am I intruding in here? This is the room where you do all kinds of gooey stuff? He's like, no, that's cool. You're always welcome. He puts the plant in his old bucket as a symbol of moving forward or, growing or whatever.
Or whatever.
You know what I'm saying.
It's a symbol of something. That's the important thing.
Yeah. Bashir and Dax have lunch in the Replomat, and he explains that the mystery kid has a condition where he's deficient in a particular enzyme, much like the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park.
True. Not lysine, though.
Right. Some other thing. And it was a little confusing whether he's deficient in this enzyme or he's just addicted to it. But because later he just says he's addicted to it, and that seems more consistent with this and then what we know later. But
well, I mean, if he needs the enzyme to live, then he's dependent on it. That doesn't mean that like not getting it can't have like withdrawal effects.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, anyway, he needs this stuff.
Yeah.
Then Bashir gets called to the infirmary where the child is making a ruckus. He's like, 6'6" now or something, and he's running around punching people and stuff.
Yep.
And he has like really long hair, which begs the question, how fast does Jem'Hadar hair grow? Maybe only during these early stages it grows really fast, I don't know. But he tries to tackle Odo, but Odo just turns into goo and the kid goes straight through. And then the kid turns and he looks at Odo with an expression of awe, and we see that he has some familiar-looking facial ridge patterns. Dax confirms for us, this kid is a Jem'Hadar.
Boom, boom, boom. Also, teenage Jem'Hadar, played by Bumper Robinson, who I know from Futurama as playing Dwight Conrad.
Oh, nice. I was like, wasn't Phil Lamar, but he was Hermes, right?
Hermes Conrad, yes.
Yeah.
And they announced today, actually, that Phil Lamar will be in the new Babylon 5 animated film that has been made and will be released sometime in the near future.
Ooh.
Several of the original cast members have sadly passed, and he will be taking the place of one of them in the animated movie.
Huh. He's still out there getting work. I guess he's not that old.
He was... I feel like he was... late 20s at least, maybe 30s in Pulp Fiction when he got shot in the face, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. I think he was probably like mid-20s or something.
Now we find out. How old is Phil Lamar?
I'm going to say he was born in like 1970.
Phil Lamar, born in 1967. You weren't too far off.
Oh, okay, so yeah, he's not old at all.
No, yeah.
He's like in his 50s. A little old. Whatever.
Yeah, so hold on. Pulp Fiction, we decided, came out the month that these episodes are out. So he would have been 1994. He would have been almost 30, not like 27, 28, somewhere in there. So yeah, late 20s. I was kind of right. All right. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, anyway, so remembering that they have a conference room set, the crew gather there and talk about what to do about the young Jem'Hadar. Sisko says some scientists are coming to pick him up, but Odo is not happy about that idea. Odo volunteers to take responsibility for the child. Aside from knowing what it's like to be a science experiment, he also feels responsible to undo some of the evil that his people have done, to see if he can help the child overcome his genetic programming. Bashir visits the boy in the brig and finds him going through withdrawal symptoms from his chemical deficiency. Odo calms the boy and gets him to agree to submit to his tests.
I have to point out here, on Memory Alpha, I have never before noticed how cheeky there's a bunch of pictures in the article from the episode, and the captions can apparently get quite cheeky, because there's a picture of like the Jem'Hadar bouncing off of the security field in the holding cell, and the caption says, "Unsurprisingly, Jem'Hadar don't like holding cells."
I mean, totally true.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody does.
There's probably somebody who that's their thing.
The holding cell species. No, why are we free? It's torture. Yeah, so Odo gets the boy to submit some tests. The boy seems to have an uncontrollable urge to fight, which Odo wishes to discourage. Then we get the Sisko Marta dinner scene. Sisko serves his father's spicy shrimp jambalaya. And then Marta gets in a good jab about people judging her based on her job. And then lets slip that Jake is actually a talented poet. Also, Jake is apparently quite the Dom Jot hustler.
Yeah.
It's like, Dom Jot, you man? That's all I can think of when I hear Dom Jot. It's like, if you cross him, he will stab you in the chest. Like, he's made like 20 artificial hearts by now. But Sisko is quite surprised at these revelations. In the junk pile, O'Brien has located a thing full of some mystery chemical, which he and Odo surmise to be the substance the Jem'Hadar boy needs. Odo deduces that the chemical is yet another means for the Founders to exercise control over the Jem'Hadar. And then we get maybe the best line of the episode, where it's like, that's pretty cold-blooded. And he's like, my people don't have blood.
It's true.
It's like, it's worse than cold-blooded. It's no-blooded.
There's also in here, there's the scene where Odo tries to get the Jem'Hadar to smile.
Oh, yeah.
Which it mentions specifically is like very similar to that scene from Terminator 2, which is hilarious because we just saw that scene from Terminator 2.
I was like, man, what's with all these like smiling scenes? Terminator 2 was like 92 or something, wasn't it?
Let's look. Terminator 2. I just gonna search for Terminator, the only good one. It was 91.
Okay. So maybe they copied that scene. I don't know. But yeah, they take the thing full of chemicals back to Bashir, who jams a tube into the boy's carotid artery and starts pumping in the chemical.
I assume this is where this goes.
Yeah, I don't know how he figured that, but he's like, oh, I found this tube. I guess I just jam it into the carotid artery. Here we go. And then let's pump in some of this chemical. Here we go. Oh no, that instantly killed him. But this note seems to do the trick. And then the boy asks if he can stay with Odo, and Odo's like, sure, you can sleep under the big sex jungle gym thing.
I was wondering, I'm like, so I guess he brought in a bed for the kid? Like, and that just raised further questions with me of like, do they have trouble getting mattresses? Because you can't make a mattress out of your replicator in your room. Do you have to like, is there an industrial replicator on the station somewhere where they have to make a mattress there and then they like cart it up to your room?
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe they have like an extreme version of those mattresses in a box.
Oh, that would make sense. Like, yeah, you could like replicate it and you pull it out and it just pops open. I mean, if we can do that now, they've got to be able to do that then.
That's true.
Good call.
Yeah, you could probably replicate it and then it's just wound up so incredibly small and then you touch it and it like explodes and puts someone's eye out.
Just add water mattress.
The Jem'Hadar boy shows a fascination at Odo's shape-shifting skills and reveals his perception of the order of society. So shapeshifters are on top, then Jem'Hadar, then everyone else.
Yep.
Odo's like, no, that's bad. Everyone's equal. And then the kid's like, well, that must be true because you can't be wrong.
He's like, yes, I can be wrong. I'm not about this, but I can be. Just...
It's like, no. And so Odo tries to get the boy to think for himself and asks what the boy wants. And the boy wants to learn more about his people, understandably. So Odo, in what might be considered a dick move, I don't know, shows him some video of the Jem'Hadar killing people. He's like, yep, here's your people.
I mean, that is kind of the thing that they do.
Yeah. Which I think is an attempt to dissuade him, but it seems to have the exact opposite effect.
Opposite effect, yep. He's like, I love fighting. This is great.
He's like, oh man, look at those people killing. Oh man, killing. This Jem'Hadar is like Dexter.
When you first said Dexter, I was thinking Dexter's Laboratory Dexter. I was like, that's mean. What did he ever do to you? But no, okay, I feel you.
He's always trying to keep Dee Dee out of his lab.
Yeah, this kid has so much trouble keeping girls out of his lab.
Yeah, he's like, oh, killing. Oh, I love it. I'd be like, okay, we got to have some serious talks about this.
Well, it was the video that he showed him that did it. The media made him violent.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, the exact same thing would have happened if you gave him some Call of Duty to play.
Yep.
Yeah, Odo takes the boy to a holosuite program he made where the boy can beat up a fish head guy to his heart's content. Is this the smartest thing to do? I don't know. But he tells him, hey, beat up that fish head guy as much as you want, but just when you go outside, you have to be nice. So the boy starts fighting the hologram, constantly increasing the difficulty level, and he's getting way too into it. And then Kira wanders in and sees what's going on, which I don't know what was going on here. She just seems to like have accidentally wandered into the holosuite.
I thought she was specifically looking for Odo to like give him this speech that she's prepared.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Based on her face, it looked like she walked in and she was like, what? Something's going on in here. But yeah, so she takes Odo aside and warns him that the Jem'Hadar are dangerous. But Odo feels like he's making progress, and he holds on to hope that people can overcome their programming. Walking down the promenade, the kid remarks that he could kill any of these people. Odo's like, can't you think of anything else? And the kid says, I don't think so. That's his literal line. It's like, I don't think so.
No, that's pretty much all I got.
I mean, killing, what else is there?
Yeah.
He's like Crumbopulous Michael from Rick and Morty. He just loves killing.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of Roberto from Futurama. It's like, practice my stabbing.
Yep. He's Roberto, Crumbopulous, Michael, and Dexter all in one.
All of those things.
So Cisco calls Odo into his office and breaks the bad news that a ship is on its way to pick up the boy, the Constitution, if it makes a difference.
And it's going to be here in a few hours, so it wasn't too far off.
But the boy invisibilifies right there with a phaser and says he's not going with them.
It's a shroud. He deshrouds or whatever.
I'm trying to keep it at the point we're at.
Okay.
He takes Odo with him to a runabout to go back to the Gamma Quadrant. Odo tries to convince him to stay or go to another planet or something and try to live a happy life. But he's just like, that's stupid. I bet the real founders are way less wussy and lame than you are.
Yep. I mean, and to be fair, Odo keeps trying to encourage him to do these other things, and the kid just keeps trying to express, but that's not what I want to do. I want to go and kill people with, like, my people.
I mean, you know who would have been a much better mentor for this kid? Worf.
Yeah, I can see that.
But unfortunately, Worf isn't on this show, so it never will be. So Cisco realizes he won't be able to stop the boy without killing him, so he allows Odo to take him to the Gamma Quadrant and drop him off with the Dominion. Apparently, the kid knows where to go, so...
Odo knows, like, Founder homeworld, so he's, he can probably find, generally speaking, some Dominion ships. Honestly, you go that direction and you start, like... Apparently it's hard not to run into Jem'Hadar ships if you're going that way. That's what we learned previously.
Yeah, well, I mean, but the kid, at one point I thought he had a line that was like, it's like, I have a sense of where to go, or something like that. So I thought, like, he's built in with, like, a homing sense or something. I don't know.
Could be.
But yeah, either way, yeah, you're, like, they could totally just fly into the Gamma Quadrant. They're probably monitoring the wormhole real close, so. But yeah, the boy continues to be an asshole the entire time.
Yep, he sure does.
So we end with a little wrap-up scene on the promenade where Cisco tells O'Brien he's going to let Jake keep seeing Marta. Down below, Odo goes to Kira, and he tells her, "You were right." That's all he says. "You were right." Then we smash to credits.
Yep. And
we're left to scratch our heads about whether that was supposed to be the moral of the episode. The end.
I honestly expected, like, him to be like, "You were right," and her to, like, have this reaction where she's, like, kind of proud that she was right, because that's Kira, is, like, she always thinks she's right. And, like, the Odo would admit something like that would be kind of, like, a big deal, I feel like, for her. But then I wanted her to be like, you were right, too, like, in a way. Like, giving him that chance was important. You were right.
Yeah, I feel like there was an extra little beat missing from there somewhere. Because, like, I was like, did Ira Stephen Bear write this episode or something? Because it seems to be just an attempt to undo, like, Iborg. Where it's like, nope, just some creatures are just assholes by nature, and there's nothing you can do about it, or whatever. I was like, well...
Well, and there is, Renee Echevarria is quoted in here saying that this is a good episode for Odo. I think people may have started seeing shades of Iborg. But the twist on it was that you can't just turn this Jem'Hadar. People felt that Hugh had turned, and it was more of a tragedy that he must go back and sacrifice himself for us. This is a different type of tragedy, where we see that there's no turning this type of creature.
Yeah. Well, I don't feel like it was such a tragedy, because, I mean, he got to go home. I mean, nobody was really...
Yeah, he got what he wanted.
...hurt in the end, except Odo just kind of, like... I felt like, you know, he got kind of an L on that one, but...
Well, that kid is addicted to a drug that, like, if he ever didn't want to do what the founders wanted, then he'd be screwed, so that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, that's true. They were going to run out of that stuff anyway, so...
Yeah, also true.
Because apparently you can't replicate it.
Drug that was never named in the episode.
Right.
And will never be named.
Yeah, we don't know what it's called. If we knew what it was called, that would be a spoiler, and we just couldn't say it, because it might ruin something. I don't know. That weird white substance. Didn't there used to be a guy named Michael Eddington on this show?
Right? What happened to him?
I was like, well, it's like Odo's just hanging out in his office. Like, he just seems to be the only guy in security.
And I'm gonna go and, like, look at the list of episodes Michael Eddington appears in. Oh, the next one is not for a while.
If there was one, it wouldn't be for a while.
Right. Obviously.
What was that?
That's what I said.
What was that other guy's name? Like Plemons or something?
Oh, shoot. Hold on. Let me see if I can. What episode was that? Maybe that's the better way to look for this.
He was definitely in Move Along Home.
Oh, that's right, because he's just like, oh yeah, they must have had a real party last night. I'm not going to look for my missing commanding officer.
Because that's when we assume he got fired for his extreme incompetence.
Yeah. Okay. Primmin. George Primmin was that guy's name.
So close. Yeah, I like that they introduced this new character, and it's just, we don't even mention him.
And apparently he was also introduced because Colomini was going to be absent for a while.
Right.
So.
It's like every time Colomini goes to shoot a movie, we got to introduce a new security guy, then immediately forget that he exists.
Hold on, I'm reading about Primmin. Robert Hewitt Wolf says, I like that character. He's sort of the good old boy. I don't know if he'll be back. We have no plans to do so right now. And that was after that last episode that he was in. So.
Oh, sure.
He did not come back, at least not yet.
Man, I saw an interesting thing. It was like before Deep Space Nine came out, like Loxana Troy was not Loxana Troy, Majel Barrett.
Yeah. Was
at a convention where she like basically read the entire show Bible to the audience.
Oh.
And I mean, it's basically, like what the setting is, what the situation is, who all the characters are.
Right.
But like someone asked her, it's like, hey, I heard they're going to do a sequel to that Sherlock Holmes episode. Is that true? And like, she's like, no, we can't do it because like the estate, because of the problem with the estate of Arthur Conan Doyle.
Right.
So I was like, wow, I guess they got that fixed later or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty interesting. I'll try to send you a link to that, or I'll put a link in the description if I find it. But my favorite was like everything was spelled wrong, and I don't know if that's just because like the person who was transcribing this at the time didn't know how to spell any of this. Like Gul Dukat is spelled Gil Duckett.
Sure.
It's like recurring villain Gil Duckett.
Maybe they used maybe it was transcribed later or whatever by a computer. That happens sometimes.
And Dr. Bashir was Dr. Julian Amoros.
That's not a bad name.
So I guess this was before they cast like Siddig El Fadil or whatever.
Right. I think I feel like we talked about it that he was like one of the last people cast.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, back on this episode.
Avery Brooks says that this episode he felt when he was making it was a metaphor.
For what?
A metaphorical study of racial tension and gang culture.
Ooh.
So he says, for me, it was very much a story about young brown men, and to some extent, a story about a society that is responsible for the creation of a generation of young men who are feared, who are addicted, who are potential killers.
Yeah. I mean, white people have gangs too, but whatever. Yeah, that's an interesting take, though.
Yeah, I mean, I would not have thought of that, and after he says it, I'm like, oh, I can kind of see that. Okay.
Yeah. And there was a lot of that in, like, movies around this time. Like, I think Dangerous Minds came out, and then there's a lot of movies where someone goes to a gang-infested school and, like, sets them straight with knowledge. Like, Dangerous Minds, Stand and Deliver. That one with Samuel L. Jackson where he actually murders the kids. What was that one called?
I don't know.
What's the code for homicide?
I don't commit homicides.
That's good. I don't either.
Edward James Olmos is the guy in Stand and Deliver. Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I haven't actually seen that, but I know of it, so I was looking at. Okay.
Yeah. Samuel Jackson.
I'm Googling Sam Jackson kills kids.
Yeah.
187 is the first thing that comes up.
Yeah.
When I Google Sam Jackson kills kids. Oh gosh.
Like there's the scene where he shoots a kid with a bow and arrow full of tranquilizer, then cuts his finger off, and then mails the kid's finger to him in the hospital. But he tattoos "Are you done?" on the kid's finger. That was a little bit more of an extreme take on that concept.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway. But yeah. Totally interesting idea by Avery Brooks. I dig it.
Ira Stephen Bear's comment is that We needed to keep the Jem'Hadar alive, but we didn't want to do another battle show, I presume because of budget reasons.
Right.
The trouble with coming up with a villain is they lose their ability to strike fear in your heart if you're able to kick their ass too quickly. Which is true. Yep.
Yeah. I think, they definitely put an effort into making us know that this Jem'Hadar kid is really lethal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we see him wailing on that fish head guy for a long time.
Ron Moore, his quote calls out something that I was going to mention. He says, "I thought this was a good opportunity to show Odo's feelings for his people, but the scene should have been deeper. Act 5 is particularly rushed, and it doesn't pay off as satisfyingly as it could have."
Yeah, I think that's the main problem with the episode, is that the end, like, they kind of didn't let the point breathe, or whatever. Because, like I said, it just comes off like, well, some people are assholes, what you gonna do?
Yeah, right. It's just... And we do get there so fast, where it's like one moment he's talking to the kid and they're having a conversation or whatever, and then it's like, oh, I got to go to Cisco's office, and the episode is pretty much over at that point. You just don't know it.
Right. So yeah, I felt like they could have, dare I say, they might have cut them, as much as I would have hated it, cut the Marta scenes out, and maybe let the story go into a little bit more nuance.
In this episode, Cisco fulfills his promise to Jake from season 2 episode Playing God about inviting Marta to dinner.
Yep.
Oh, this is what I meant to mention, but I almost lost it in here. According to the Stardate, the events of the Voyager pilot episode take place between this episode and the next one.
Oh, okay.
So,
although
right after this.
Voyager didn't debut until, like, January, right?
Well, hold on. Let's make sure. Let's find the exact date, because I can just click that. It is January, yep.
Okay. Oh, that was another thing in that Majel Barrett thing, was she talks about, like, oh, we originally had this idea for this totally different concept for the Doctor, and she goes on to describe basically Melora. And she's like, but, like, we just couldn't make it work, so we went another direction. Yeah, I think we
talked about that in the Melora episode, actually. I think that there was notes about that.
Yeah, I couldn't remember it, but I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Okay, so let's do ratings. You go first.
Okay, this episode, I mean, there's some good stuff, but it's kind of right on the line for me.
Okay.
I think it's right over the line. So I'm going to give it a Lieutenant Commander. I mean, just, like I said, the point is just a little, like, rushed and blunt. And, so, like, it doesn't really land. But there are some, like, nice moments. And I guess we're moving the Odo character along, which is good. I don't know how I feel about, like, Big Pimpin' Jake, but... Because he's just, like, this scrawny little kid, and he's, like, dating this... I can't think of a polite equivalent of what a dabo girl is in our world, but it's, like...
Hooters girl?
I don't want to, like... defame Hooters girls, but
I mean, why you gotta defame Dabo girls? There's nothing wrong with them.
That's true. I'm being totally like, not sex positive or whatever. But, yeah. But it's just the way he's like, "Hey, baby." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Honestly, I agree. It's kind of weird, but at the same time, I am on board at this point with anything that gives Jake some actual character outside of him being, like, dumb teenager, which has gotten annoying and old at this point.
I mean, I always enjoy Jake being a dumb teenager because it's just a great contrast with Wesley Crusher.
It's true.
Who's the world's most annoying kid, but...
I'm wishing that we'd seen, like, Jake hustling people at Dom Jot before now. Like, this is some stuff that would have been, like, him and Nog playing Dom Jot.
Well, it's like, where do they play this Dom Jot? Because don't you need, like, a big table? Isn't it basically, like, pool?
I think it's pool, yeah. And I remember this from when Picard played it and got stabbed through the heart.
Right. When that Nausicaan guy was like, Dom Jot, you man?
Maybe somewhere in the back of Quarks there's a Dom Jot table.
There could be, like, a whole Dom Jot, like, room that we haven't seen or something.
Could be.
I mean, you're right. It is pretty entertaining. Like, even though part of me feels really weird about it, another part of me just, like, really enjoys it. And part of me is like O'Brien, like, Godspeed, Jake.
You go, guy. Yep.
It's just like, is Jake spending the night at Marta's place? Or like, what's going on?
Hey, you know, maybe in the future they might be way more relaxed about all this stuff. You don't know.
And I know, like, if gender roles were like, if there was like a guy who looked like Magic Mike, and he was dating this like skinny little teenage 16-year-old girl, everybody would be like, ugh. But it's not, so we're not even going to worry about it. So yeah, Lieutenant Commander is what I'm going to put it at. Okay. How do you rate the episode?
Okay, so I have to say, I got to start off with, first of all, like I said, I like Jake getting some more character, even if it's, honestly, it seems kind of out of character for the person we've known up to now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he secretly writes poetry and hustles Dom Jot. I'm like, well, where was this?
Yeah.
Where was any of that? But I like him not being two-dimensional, so I'm going to go with it. I like the part about Odo getting his own place. That's an interesting direction for his story to take, and they folded it into what was happening in the episode well. I like what we did with the Jem'Hadar, because it is a way to, like, we learn more about the Jem'Hadar through what we saw in this episode than you could learn from being told how badass they are over an entire season. Like,
right.
This just told us everything we need to know about the Jem'Hadar, including the fact that you're going to have to fight them. This is, you can't negotiate with the Jem'Hadar. You can't try to turn them to your side. You can't you can't appeal to their better nature because they don't have one. They want to fight and kill. It really, like, I guess, kind of like Ira Stephen Bear says, it builds these bad guys up to be even like, oh my gosh, this is going to be something to deal with.
And we get a lot of info also on like the particular, like, they're genetically engineered, they're addicted to drugs.
Yep. And they've got it built into themselves to worship the founders.
Yeah.
They've and be obedient to them, and just like, it's built into them that they are superior to me and I have to do whatever they say and they can't be wrong. Like, it's just all stacking up to make these, like, for the Federation, who's, the way that they win is by, like, making friends out of their enemies. This is not shaping up well for them.
Right.
I think for the show, the arc of the show as a whole, this is an extremely important episode. And that it communicates a lot of information really well.
Yeah.
All of that said, I hate it. I can't even put my finger on why, but there's episodes that you don't like that you kind of forget about, and there's episodes that, like, stand out in their ridiculousness. This is an episode that I always remember because I dread watching it. I don't like it. Like, and it's worse because on a rewatch or watching it with someone new, you can't skip it because it's very important.
Yeah.
But I hate it. So, yeah, like, I had to preface it with all the good stuff, but I'm going to give it an ensign. I really don't like it.
Full on ensign. Wow.
Yes. I mean, if I was trying to be fair and get away from my personal feelings that I can't even really justify, then I would have to give it higher. But the whole point is that it's my rating. So
yeah, exactly.
And I don't know that there is an episode I hate as much as this one, so I can't not give it an ensign.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's where I am.
All right, fair enough. I have to say also, that Jem'Hadar kid is extremely unlikable. Yeah,
no, he definitely is. That may be part of it. That I'm just like, I don't like him. I don't want to see him.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear him. He's annoying.
So I want to punch that kid in the face, and I don't care if he kills me. I have to punch that kid in the face.
You know, weirdly, Dwight on Futurama also very punchable.
That's
something
true.
About Bumper Robinson, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know, honestly, that there's another episode in the entire series that I dread watching as much as I dread this one.
So it's worse than The Storyteller.
Yeah, I would rather watch The Storyteller if I was going to have to watch one, yeah.
Trying to think of all the other ensigns. Doesn't get much worse than The Storyteller, to be honest. But... Okay, then.
I guess it really contributes to what you said about, like, the wrap up being too quick. The scene with Odo and Kira, like you said, also feels like it's the end of the episode, and it feels like it ends early.
Yeah.
And this is the one moment that you could have taken to, like, let's sit with this for a second, because this is the slow, like, emotional climax of the episode or whatever, and we're just like, nah, done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the last bit of the episode really doesn't go well.
Yeah. So you want to wrap it up there?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I guess that does it for us today. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. As always, check out the description where you may find links to interesting things, or you may find nothing. It's like a game of dabo. I'm Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
Adios.
And until next time, do not forget to kiss that negus stick.